So we need to ask ourselves, what has that got to do with trading? What has that got to do with business? I thought, or we believe, that your sexual orientation should be a personal thing. Why is it now at the forefront or at the front burner of trade treaties between Africa and the West? Another issue that we also need to think about is, why don't they bring these same conditions when they are doing trade with the Arab world? We as Africans need to sit back and ask ourselves, why are those things happening and what is the way forward? If we cannot find a way forward, if we cannot make critical decisions on what will help us or move our society forward, we're going to find that a lot of the things that are already happening in the West is going to begin to happen in Africa. Are we ready for the fallout of actually signing this treaty in Nigeria or in any African country? If Nigeria is the giant of Africa, a lot of countries in Africa look to Nigeria to make certain decisions, to take certain steps on behalf of Nigeria, of course, on behalf of Africa, and on behalf of the Black race. Nigeria is the most populous Black nation in the world. So whatever happens to Nigeria affects every Black person anywhere in the world. And it is well known that Nigerians are found in almost every country in the world. I dare say every country in the world. There's this popular saying that say, any country you go to and there's no Nigerian, run away from such a country. And so the question is, what happens when Nigeria capitulates to what the West wants? If Nigeria today signs that treaty and accepts that, yes, there are more than more than two genders, what happens to the rest of Africa? What hope do we have when it comes to our culture, when it comes to our traditions? What is this ACP EU trade? What is it about? Just a summary of it so we can delve into the main issues.
Yes, okay. Thank you very much for bringing this subject matter, because it is very, very important, because a lot of people think that the most important thing to discuss is politics or democracy. But that is not true. The most important thing, or the first thing, is culture, because you want to destroy a people, you destroy their culture. Yes. It's not even politics or democracy. Yes. It's not even the economy. So what we are discussing is very, very important. And I must thank you for bringing it up, because people are always saying, well, don't you have more important thing to discuss? We're talking about poverty. We're talking about, the country, everybody is, people cannot eat. We're discussing that. This is very, very important. So the EU-ACP agreement is something that touches the life wire of every African. Mm-hmm. EU, European Union, and East African Caribbean Pacific's agreement. No, that's what it's called, EU-ACP agreement. It's an agreement that was drawn by the European Union to get African leaders to sign, promising to promote. As soon as they sign, they will undertake to promote LGBT, to promote transgenderism, to promote abortion in Africa, at least for 30 years, You know that each African country has a domestic law, That domestic law is that domestic law binds every country, okay? Any treaty that can be accepted in a country has to be ratified and domesticated, okay, by the National Assembly. Yeah. So no treaty is binding in Nigeria unless it is domesticated. Okay. But this particular treaty, that is the EU-ACP agreement, has a clause that says that once the leaders have signed the agreement, it becomes automatically binding. In other words, you don't need to ratify, you don't need to domesticate. And that's why we are crying foul, because this is an indirect way of legalizing LGBT in Nigeria. You know that during the Jonathan administration, LGBT was outlawed in Nigeria. In other words, Nigeria has an anti-gay law that has punishment if you practice, partake in LGBT, have LGBT meetings and so on and so forth. It's a law in Nigeria.
Yes, it is.
Now, to bypass this law, they have included in this EU-ACP agreement a clause to the effect that once our leaders sign it, leaders of Africa sign it, it becomes automatically binding. So most of the African parliamentarians and lawyers, I was there in Uganda, where we all said no to the agreement, and we came out with what is called a Tembe Declaration, restating our cultural values in Africa, and saying that we cannot accept the EU-ACP agreement. Despite all this, they are still going ahead. The latest is that they are saying that by next month they will get our African leaders to sign this agreement. What we're saying is that you can't. If African people are saying no, why are they bent on imposing this agreement on us, getting our leaders to sign this? We have told African leaders not to sign, but they are going to threaten them. They are going to, say all kind of things and say, look, if you don't sign it, you're not going to get a loan from us. If you don't sign it, you have no business with us. And our leaders, being that they want to, get loan, they want to, somehow they will obey and they will sign this agreement.
Is it important that we sign this particular trade agreement? What's the benefits to us as Africans?
Well, the benefit is to trade, to have trade with the West, in the sense of we're accepting, because we don't produce anything in this country, it depends on import for almost everything. It's just to gain these trade benefits, and they are saying fine, because if you see the EU-ACP agreement, it has the trade benefit in the sense that okay, we are going to give you concessions and importing. They are going to make it easier for you to import these goods. We are going to trade with you. We are going to have goods that you don't produce. We are going to have it in Nigeria. We are going to give you loan. All these are trade benefits. If you accept, you are going to have all these trade benefits. You have to agree to promote transgender, to promote abortion, to promote LGBT. And every year, they're going to give us reports on how you are complying with it. South Africa can import cars to other African countries. So if there are free movement, free visa, we went to South Africa, we were asked to apply for visa, and it took us so long to get a visa. So if there are no visas, there are no trade barriers, trade tariff, okay? African countries will trade among themselves, and you can have United Africa, United Africa means United Sovereign Powerful Africa. So what we are saying is that we are not bound to trade with these people. Instead, what they are coming here to do is to exploit us. I don't know whether you have seen the video made by wherein the president of Ghana was talking about the exploitation of Africa by the West. Was saying, look, they come to Africa, they tap our resources, take our raw materials, they go back, produce things, and then we import them at higher cost. Yeah. Okay?
Yes.
So what the president of Ghana was actually saying is that, look, if we look inwards, we can use our raw materials to benefit ourselves,
But will African countries be ready to harmonize their individual or different currencies to be able to be one and accept the value as being one, like it's used in America and other countries or in the EU?
It is possible. That's what we went to discuss in South Africa under the umbrella of African Bar Association, that it is started already. Other countries are doing it already. It's not going to be easy, but we are saying that if in the future it's going to be possible, this single currency will be possible, starting with the free movement, free trade, because we have the resources here. We are powerful, okay? If we open our borders to African countries, opening their borders, we have trade links between South Africa and Nigeria, between Ghana and Nigeria, Sierra Leone and everything. Is going to be possible. It's going to be possible.
It's now or never. It's either we're going to speak up now or we're just going to have to forget it. Once, like what he explained, Once our president signs that treaty, whether you like it or not, gay people, lesbians, queer, pansexual, bisexual, whatever it is that they call themselves, they have the same right as you to do whatever they want to do. So we want to sanitize our school system, you cannot, because they can stand legally and say children should also be taught that in schools. We have no idea what this means if this treaty is signed. So the first thing everybody should be thinking about is what we are going to do to come together to stand as one and insist that our president does not sign that treaty. We must come together to ensure that our president, President Tinubu, to be specific, does not sign that treaty. He is the one on that seat right now. Whether you like it, you don't like it, it doesn't change the fact that he's the one right there. And what is important is we coming together as one to say, no, you cannot bypass the majority and go and do what the West want. The West can no longer and should no longer decide for Africa what we should think, what we should eat, what we should do. That is slavery. If indeed we are calling ourselves saved people, we are calling ourselves independent people, we're calling ourselves free, we must act like the free. The free makes their own decision. They make their own, they decide for themselves what they want, how they want their societies to be. If we allow the West to make that decision for us, we can kiss our African independence or so-called independence goodbye. So this is what is important right now. Yes, there are issues, people are going through whatever, so much hardship, but you must understand, like Barrister Ekwewusi said, the moment you want to destroy a people, the first thing you need to do, destroy their culture. Once you have destroyed their culture, you have destroyed their self-identity. People with no self-identity cannot stand and face you, cannot stand and decide for themselves what they want to happen to them. They cannot decide their future. They are dependent. And if we do not want to be dependent, Africans, we do not love ourselves. We don't work together. You will see a black man will celebrate a white man, but the moment is a fellow black man, we begin to vilify, we begin to quarrel, we begin to fight amongst ourselves. So how is this going to work? We can't even work together now that we're in our different countries. How is something like this going to happen? How is it possible?
Yeah, thank you very much, because this is very crucial to the success of Africa. Africa is crying for justice, justice for Africa. But Africa should first of all do justice to itself. No, democracy is actually the best. Government of the people, by the people, and for the people. But unfortunately, democracy has been hijacked by African despots, and they have turned it into tyranny to the extent that you are practicing democracy and it seems as if you are military rule. So with the coup that took place in the Nigeria Republic, we are saying that, okay, we don't want coup d'etat, but do we have good governance? Because you invite military, you invite coup if you don't govern well, okay? So the debate is going on now. Okay, we despise the military rule, we reject military rule, but at the same time, our African leaders doing their best. From Congo Republic to whatever, to Mali, to, it's all wars, it's all acrimony, it's all bad governance,
Issue of religion in Africa and ethnicity. So when we're talking about dealing with issues in Africa, under what platform? How do we handle the issue of ethnicity? How do we handle the issue of religion, and being able to come under one umbrella to say this is what we are doing, this is what we're standing on? How do we accomplish that?
Well, this is a very important point, because our leaders, not only in Nigeria but also across Africa, tend to use religion to divide us, ethnicity to divide us. Ordinarily, people are friendly to one another in every country, but when it comes to politics, politicians use the question of religion and ethnicity to divide the people. I think we should go beyond all those things, because knowing full well that these are the things that our politicians use to continue to hold on to power. So we have to go beyond religion and ethnicity, okay, and insist There are many ways of getting the government to be accountable. It's not just, I mean, I'm not saying that we should do NSAS or violent protests. Non-violent protest, non-violent rally, non-violent, I mean, sit at home. There are many ways of getting them to be accountable, getting them to say, oh, this is something that we are actually doing badly. So we need to sit up, okay? You know that very well that the Nigeria Labour Congress has went on a strike last time, and they are saying that by the 17th of August 2023, if nothing is done, they will go back to strike. So such strikes are important because it's a weapon of getting the government to be accountable, okay? And there are other ways of getting them to be accountable. First of all, asking who is presenting you in parliament, asking questions, getting them to account, every quarter, of the year, going to them and asking questions, and writing to them and complaining. We must not give up, The danger is to give up and say, they're not going to do anything, so they will give up. No. We're going to continue to insist. Peaceful strikes, peaceful protests, writing and talking and complaining. This is the way to. It has happened in many countries, so it can be quite effective, This non-violent protest, non-violent rally. In many countries where it has happened, leaders have come out and said, look, we are going to be responsible. Many of our people are ignorant, and these are nothing they just have to know. What they take as the source of education is what they read in newspapers and social media. They have to be culturally sophisticated. They have to be well educated. Look at the program that you're having now. A lot of people don't even know about this EU-ACP agreement. A lot of people don't know, a lot of Africans don't know that the West is dominating them. They don't even understand the meaning of neocolonialism. So I think we start, like what we are doing now, the program you have now is one way of educating the people, enlightening the people, so that they get to know what is happening. I started by telling you, by letting you know that the first thing is not politics, The first thing is not even economy. The first thing is culture. About your existence, about your being. Because once you are destroyed, everything is destroyed. Because the people that run the economy, they don't come from they come from families, they come from this. So about letting the people know that the first thing is family values. The first thing is the family. But the family is the safety net in Africa, okay? Because in Europe, they have social security in hospitals and in whatever tax, insurance policies and all that. Health insurance. But in Africa, this is lacking. The only social security that we have is the family, okay? And now, if this family is destroyed, we are finished in Africa. That means we don't have any social security. This is what I want the people to understand, that we need to sit up and say, look, hold what we have, which is the family, where we have our safety net.
In America, where drag queens, you will see men wear bra, carry their private parts, open it up. A lot of them are walking naked, stuck naked on the streets, and they go to schools to go and read stories to children. Excuse me, what kind of story is a child who is seeing a full-grown man wearing pants and bra with pink, green, or yellow hair? What kind of story is that child going to learn? Of course, you and I know that at this tender age, children learn more visually than what you say. They follow what you do, not what you say more. Okay, so we need to understand the impact we are going to have in our society. African society is going to be turned on its head if we accept this treaty and watch our president sign it into law. It is not a time for you to listen and go about looking for the money you are going to use to buy fuel. I promise you, that money to buy fuel will be the least of your problems if this treaty is signed. And so I expect you, what is expected of you, what God expects of you, is to get up and say, hey, I have issues, but this is a bigger issue. We do not want our society turned into what we do not want. Today, we have a high moral decadence in African society. And the reason is so is because a lot of us kept quiet when we should have spoken up. When our children were going astray, we saw it as, oh, it's the modern life. When our children were acting up, instead of us to correct them, we were too afraid. We were too afraid to actually discipline them and stop them from doing what we know is wrong. Today we have children who act in ways that we never would have thought possible. It's time to speak up. It's time to act. It's time to say no to whatever agenda the West has. And it's time for us to remind ourselves that we are a people. We deserve and reserve the right to decide our own future. No white man, no Westerner, no European has any right to tell you, an African, how to live your life. It is your prerogative. Remember that, and remember also, join the Parents Watch Network, because on Thursday we will be discussing this issue as it relates to children and how it affects them.